Good morning, good afternoon, good night, whatever time of day it is for you. My name is Justin Coolimp, and a whole host of names I've always joked about. And as you can hear, I'm a little bit more of a jubilant mode. I've had a good day as far as a Monday goes, with 200 plus calls in queue at work. However, I was watching Asmongold the other day, and he said that it would take at least 2 patches to recover the story that's happening. Nay, nay, good sir. Nay, nay. I do not agree with that. I can do it in one. First off, we see the last scene I saw is Mr. Big Bad Jailer walking through that little portal along with Aduriel, or Audrin, whatever his name is. Boy King. Interesting idea. He accepts his role as a Death Knight. However, let's cover 3 things before I get into how you fix all of this. We have 3 main stories that's going on right now. We have Tarande and Sylvanas. We have Anduin. Oops. And we have the jailer to deal with. First off, let's cover some basics. We're going to cover the jailer first. The jailer is by far the least interesting of all these characters, and the story is easiest to wrap up. Both him and Anduin's going to be in the final raid. And I'm hoping I pronounced the kid's name right. So, he is unable to leave the Shadowlands. Not incapable. Not unwilling. Sorry, incapable is the right word. He is incapable of leaving the Shadowlands because his soul, his essence, is bound to it. After so long living in the Maw, he cannot live without it. And for some of you, you're going to ask, well, what happened when he walked through the portal? He appears back at the top of the bloody chain, coming back down. Anduin, who's been his new what you can call a first generation Death Knight again, because he's the first one to be created directly by the jailer in a long time. At least I believe that's the lore. He's able to travel to ICC. He turns around and notices that Saphriel isn't there and returns to his master's side. Meanwhile, Zaphriel, or whatever the fuck the jailer's name is descending fastly back into the Maw, crashing back down onto the ground below him, where everyone else appeared. He finds himself bound by 5 chains, and he's drug up to the top of his cathedral, or whatever you want to call it, or he's drugged somewhere else, whatever the new raid environment is. And during this raid, you see that he's essentially having Anduin cut his chains free. This will come back here in a moment. But we're going to place a pause on him. The jailer is desperately trying to break these chains that seem to bind him to the Shadowlands. Let's deal with the next pair. Tarande and Sylvanas. We know my personal opinion about Sylvanas and how she is a shitty character. After Wrath, she is a shitty character that one of the writers over at the WoW writing team has a crush on and wishes to marry her. I would not be surprised whoever the lead writer is has a body pillow, if not a real-life sex doll of Sylvanas. And no, I'm not being sarcastic about that. I really believe that, because there's no reason for the hero worship that Sylvanas is getting right now. So, we'll get back to our boy king here in a moment. So, Tarande and Sylvanas actually have another showdown. Alun having to give her agent free will, doesn't tell her about the tear. It's on her person, she just doesn't know it. Sylvanas, however, is able to break free. And they start having the battle in front of everybody. No one's afraid. Everyone's not necessarily afraid. But Tarande is just going hard. Like, when Moonfire starts dropping from the sky, you don't get in the middle of that fight. That's the situation. So, what does one do? They wait it out. Thrall, all of them, they sit back and they watch as Tarande slowly start to, not just slowly, she just raffle stomps her. Because that's what Sylvanas needs. Finally, at the moment of climax, Tarande strips her of her bow, breaking her hands, tosses her bow to the side, just out of reach. Like, even if she wanted to, she's got her in full fucking guard. There's no way she's moving. Sitting right on top of that chest. She leans down and she grabs her throat and she just starts choking her. You can see the lights. You have Sylvanas desperately trying to throw punches straight to the stomach. Nothing's happening. That moon emblem, or where the fuck it was in that cinematic, starts glowing even brighter as her rage fulfills and it's coming to a climax. And then a sword goes through both of them. BAM! Yeah, it's a little reminiscent of Final Fantasy VII. The Tear of Elune, which was kind of like all hyped up, shatters. Because it's in between the armor and herself. She doesn't notice it because she's filled with her rage. And Sylvanas doesn't die by Tarande's hand. Anduin has come back with that rune blade of his. The first one forged, properly forged in a very long time by a true master who knows how to rune forge. He kills Sylvanas. Tarande, who is sitting there gobstopped because she can't speak, starts crying in frustration as she was not able to kill her target. Now, Anduin's not a dickhead. For the most part, I like him as a character. He's a pretty good character, and let's be honest here. He sets Tarande's dying form off to the side. She's dying. She's not coming back from this. But Sylvanas gets her comeuppance. After years of being a genocidal maniac, she's getting what's coming to her. And what's coming to her is the same thing that Arthas gave to her. He holds out the rune blade and forces her back into a banshee. Right there in the middle of the Shadowlands. No one arguing. Because by this point, he's cast Apocalypse. No one saw him do it, but there's an army of ghouls standing between him and them. I mean, you literally, like, the camera pans away, it focuses on those two. It does a 360, like, if this is the scene between Anduin and Sylvanas, it comes panning in from the other group, circles around like this, and all of a sudden there's a legion of fucking ghouls standing between them. Some abominations, some fully fleshed out, and gargoyles start spitting acid towards them just to keep the ground out, to keep them away. And unlike Arthas, who got his power second hand, or third hand, or fourth hand, how many ever times it got passed down, Anduin is right there. He was not given the power through some third or fourth party agency. He wasn't corrupted through the sword, through Frostmourne. We find out why. And his reason is much more simplistic than what everyone ever thought it was ever going to be. He just wanted his father back, so he could say goodbye. Now, what you should have picked up on this, and this is the reason why I think the WoW writers are shit. This actually gets all the way back around to cyclical writing. What they're trying to do is emulate Greek myth. Anduin doing what he does for that purpose is horrible. And we all have to acknowledge that it's horrible. But let's be honest here. That right there changes everything. So, the Banshee Queen is now just a Banshee again. And she's not a fully formed Banshee. She's only a head. She can't wield her bow. All she can do is cry. Because once again, Anduin has silenced her. You just see those bloody, streaky tears that whoever at Blizzard has a hard-on for is there. Afterwards, Anduin leaves. Because his magic is by far more powerful than Arthas's ever was. What happens is she comes. She serves. And one of the things that I would write in is he says, you have always served. You have never been your own party. When you fought after Arthas, you were a slave to your rage. When you came back, you were already the jailer's servant. You have been serving him for ages. And now you serve me. And then, what you would expect to be is a growl of rage or anger. It doesn't come. The reason it doesn't come is because she's still unable to speak. After all this, Anduin death gates into somewhere else. Now, this is where the patch jumps into the raid. So, how does the raid go? Now, I don't have the raid fully fleshed out in my head, but let's talk about how it goes. First off, Sylvanas is a mini-boss for the first 3 floors, the first 3 wings. During said time, she shows up, she tries to interfere. You defeat her when you travel first into the building, to the next wing, to the next wing. And then finally on the 4th wing of the raid, you fight her properly. You kill her. She starts her health at 45%, by the way. Yes, that's a dig at Blizzard. When she dies, you hear her scream from the bottom of the raid. It shakes the tower. And then she's silent again. If you're going to write something that's horrendous, Blizzard, write it good. After that, the last couple fights, you build up to it. You're not fighting Anduin. You come across, finally, the final fight. The jailer is struggling against his bonds. Anduin is trying to rip them free. And you see the 5 sigils that we saw previously. They're glowing and they're ripping into the jailer's flesh. Throughout the fight, you're actually fighting both Anduin and the jailer. As each sigil powers up, and this is where you can actually get into some really creative fights. Each one of the leaders, I forget their names, each one of the leaders begin to come in and assist. And how they assist is by just going ahead and assisting you in the fight. It can be healing, some DPS, heroic. You get some assistance, whatever it is halved. And in Mythic, you don't have any at all. So you just gotta raw dog it. With that said, Anduin, finally, before you're able to defeat him, gets the last one free. The jailer screams in triumph, "I'm free! I'm free!" Then he realizes what's really binding him there. It's not the chains. It's him. Everything this realm is him. He can't leave himself. He'll never be able to. Now, if you're going to write something that is heart-wrenching for a villain, that's how you do it. You go for the fucking throat. And that's how you solve that problem with the jailer. He breaks down, crumbling to the floor, hands in his face, screaming in anger and anguish. He cannot leave because he is the Maw. He is the final place all souls go when they are unfit for redemption. To leave here would be someone or something different. And he can't do that to himself. That's not who he is. He's stuck there forever. Now, Anduin. Anduin calls his new servant to his side, and she comes. Not only does she comes quickly. He opens a death gate. They're gone. What we see is how WoW ends. Or at least how Azeroth ends. They make their way back to the heart of Azeroth. Magnus Bronzebeard, I think is his name, is standing there like a good protector of Azeroth. Scream. She screams. When she screams, he shatters. Silence. And she's quiet again. He takes that rune blade, having not been able to get what he wanted out of the jailer. He stabs it into Azeroth. We hear the planet shudder, much more than when Sargeras struck the planet. And in that, you see it begin to glow red hot. A final muffled scream. He opens another death gate. And he's gone again. We rejoin Anduin coming back to the jailer. And he asks, "You could have always destroyed those bonds. You have the worlds of strength from every living soul that ever's passed through here. Azeroth's not the only place you gain power. Why pretend that you're ever going to break your own bonds?" And that's where it ends. We don't find out why the jailer was so insistent on leaving. Why he was trying to fight his fate. Anduin just says it clearly as day. You knew you never were going to leave. Why fight against it? And that right there is how you end WoW. That's how you end fucking WoW. You get your satisfactory answer on what's going to happen with the jailer. The jailer was never going to leave that place. By having him perpetually bound to it, and best part being is he knew he was bound to it, he knew he can never make it to the world of the living. How many planets had the Scourge already scoured? How strong was he really? He could probably take on the Titans. He could probably take on the old ones. But we're going to digress from that. Sylvanas gets her comeuppance. I don't like Sylvanas as a character. She was okay in Warcraft 3. She was okay up until Wrath of the Lich King. She chunked herself off of Icecrown Citadel, and that completed her actual story arc. And if you don't believe me, you can go suck a big fat hairy dick. And I mean one of those dicks that have hair on the shaft. The reason why is she comes back and all of a sudden she's now afraid of death? No. Either she's been afraid of death or she has not been afraid of death. In her scenes where she willingly tries to strike at the jailer, She obviously doesn't care about it. And that bothers me. That's something someone who wants to die does. Tarande doesn't get her vengeance. No, she doesn't get it. That was never their way, is vengeance. Revenge was never their plot. And she dies knowing that she could not strike the final blow against Sylvanas. If you want to make that fight really heart-wrenching, just have Tarande dominate Sylvanas left and right. Over and over and over again. Like kicking back her bow, saying, do it. Come on, strike me down if you have the power. Like straight up taunt bullshit. With that said, let me be blunt. Blizzard won't do that. First off, they're probably 3 expansions ahead on the story. So they're trying to make it look really nice right now. 2, Sylvanas does not deserve redemption. She is a genocidal maniac, pure and simple. She needs to die, and she needs to die not by who she wants to die by. She needs to die by the person who's going to re-enslave her. Yes, enslave her. Forcing her back into a banshee form and just fucking taking that shit from her again. Proving to her time and time again she has only served others. And let's see what happens then. She's not gonna like it. And even worse is they go out of their way to show how dominated she is. How she's never going to be able to fight back against what she has. With that said, leave your comments down below. What do you think? If Asmongold actually watches this on his stream, hello! And what do you think of it? Do you think this is a good idea for ending it in one patch? Because all we need is a new fucking raid. Generic. Throw it together. The spiritual ashes of Yggdrasil, or whatever the big tree that died in Warcraft 3. Do it in the spiritual ashes of that. Yeah. And then you end the game. And this is what you really do. This is what you do to make it better. You stop all services. You give the expansion the end of its day, and then on that last day, the planet explodes. You can never log into it again. Because you're going to make WoW 2. It's not going to be Azeroth. You might have some familiar faces like the Draenei, maybe some elfish people. But you don't have... You can even have the humans and orcs. Because they're now space travelers. They've spread throughout the universe. You have new planets, new worlds, new universes you can roll in. And you do it. You go out of your way to end it. The story has been shit for a long time. And if you want to have your heart on for some bow chick who can just run around and dominate the hardiest of fucking soldiers, of fucking warriors, her knocking around Bolvar, fuck you. But, let's be honest here. You could re-stew everything. New classes. New stories. A brand new universe. And unless you get your writing straight, it's gonna be shit again. It's going to be shit again. Because you keep the same ass writers on your payroll. Why has no one gone up and said, hey, why does Sylvanas deserve redemption? And I bet you that answer was, oh, I really like her. I think she's good. She's a good character. I think she just needs to be expanded upon, dude. Sorry, I think I went a little hyper surfer there. The reality remains the same. End it. End it finally. Let me point something out. The Matrix MMO realized it was hot garbage. It had no subscriber base. What did it do? It ended it. Final Fantasy XIV, the first edition. And just to show you something, this shows you how dedicated I was to buying that game. That's the original token that came in the collector's edition. Yes, I have the rest of the collector's edition somewhere around me. I've been moving around and blah, 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 blah. That's how fucking hardcore I was about Final Fantasy XIV, because I loved 11. That game was hot garbage. No auto attack, no jump, and all you could do is you had to hit that button every time. Everyone used the same fucking mechanics too. So, you end it. What did Final Fantasy XIV do? Yoshi said, fuck this noise. Let's start over. Jump buttons, in. Auto attack, in. And you just kept fucking going. They remade the game. They redrew the core of their game. The story is what draws people in. When they ended the world, they ended it on a story note. That way the next game, The Realm Reborn, is following that story. You want to do a new WoW? You want to get people back into your world where you don't have to really build the outside universe again? Start over. Go to a brand new planet with new old gods. Like we only know about all of the old gods. There are old gods running on this planet, bound by the same basic magics that kept them bound to Azeroth. But it's a new planet. You can explore it again. You can find creatures you've never seen before. And that's how you do it. That's how you save your story, Blizzard. You end Azeroth. Anduin disappears back into the Maw. Sylvanas is in servitude. None of this I will not serve bullshit. Motherfucker, she's been serving since fucking Cataclysm. And that's how you end it. That's how you fucking end it. And then you start over. New mage classes. New melee classes. New tank classes. New healing classes. All of it's new. And then when people start building up their transmogs, when they start collecting mounts, when they start collecting all of this other stuff, they have the glory of going through it from the beginning again. And if your story is even halfway decent, they will stick around. But you gotta make it work. You can't sit there on your fucking ass and let some motherfucker who has a hard-on for a character continue to destroy your stories. I don't have time to read your books and your comics. I don't have time to read about how Sylvanas is this misunderstood character. She's not a misunderstood character. She's a fucking genocidal maniac. Period. There is no buts to that. For expansions, she has tried to murder everyone she could. And if it was all to grow her power through the jailer, that's even worse. Because at least when she originally was trying to kill people, she was trying to turn them into the fucking undead so that her race can continue. Now it's all about her. Where that character began is not where it ends. So, good morning, good afternoon, good night. May joy be to you all, and I hope you like this video. And even though it's normally not my thing, comment, like, subscribe if you want to. Again, if people happen to be watching this on another person's channel, go ahead, give me a follow. I've got a lot of theories, and if you really enjoy watching someone go fucking through a panic rage attack at Blizzard, watch my video about me uninstalling all the fucking software off my computer. But may joy be to you all.